I mean, there's a lot to talk about these days. And I recognize a lot of people are actually squawking about this topic, but this is The Casual and it's forcing my hand. I have to do it. I'm Reggie Casual. This is yet another video on Virgil, but it speaks on a bigger issue. So hopefully I can kind of wing it into something positive. I wanna bring this into positivity. I'm not trying to go crazy on people. Let's run the intro real quick. Okay, so long story short, Virgil Abloh, you know who he is, recently made a comment on streetwear being dead again. Oh boy. But strangely, he focused a lot on the looting of fellow high street cohort and sneaker designer Sean Wotherspoon. Virgil was essentially upset that his friend's store was looted and claimed the items were stolen were somehow tainted because of how they were procured. In an Instagram post, Virgil wrote, and I quote, "This is fucked up. You see the passion, blood, sweat, and tears Sean puts in for our culture? This disgusts me. To the kids that ransack this store in RSVP, DTLA, and all our stores in our scene right now, that product staring at you in your home apartment right now is tainted and a reminder of a person I hope you aren't. We're a part of a culture together. Is this what you want? When you walk past him in the future, please have the dignity to not look him in the eye, hang your head in shame." He also posted a $50 donation to BLM on his Instagram story feed, which he clarified was him matching a donation with friends in his circle, and he was effectively dragged on social media for it for the small amount that he gave considering his wealth, despite clarifying in his apology post that he donated as much as $20,000 while listing out his efforts in the community and his philanthropic goals in the future. Many responded to this with a version of, "We don't have time to read that." All right, so this is a lot to take in, but let me preface this with a statement for all you Virgil fans out there. Virgil Abloh, for a great many people, is an inspiration, blah, blah, blah. He's broken down barriers, blah, blah, blah. Many people like him, yada, yada, yada. He's successful and good for him. And finally, I personally, so quit the noise, have no problem with the success of Virgil Abloh. That's not what this is about. Just because he's successful, it doesn't mean he's beyond reproach. We're often far too quick to defend individuals that could use some constructive criticism sometimes. Just listen. So let's get real. We don't need Virgil Abloh to disclose how much he donated to any campaign. We really don't need that. Everybody, and we need the receipts. You don't need him to do that. I'm more concerned with what he's done on the ground and his active efforts, of which, if you research, he has done those things. To that, I actually applaud him. I do. But Virgil has a tendency to overreach, overteach, and overexplain, blaming others for not having enough information when he kind of messes up and doesn't understand the tenor of the moment. This is the internet age and people are very easily moved by a headline. So a far better response to him being dragged was to own up to it. Like, a better response would have been, "Hey guys, yeah, I made a mistake. I totally botched that one. Of course I donated more, but you know what? I'm just gonna have to live with keep it 2 Virgils. But more importantly, go ahead and sign these petitions. And if you want, support these campaigns." And yes, we can still say keep it 2 Virgils. I'ma own that one. The internet continues its undefeated streak. Do your thing. It's very easy. It's not hard to do because people can understand when you mess up. You gotta take your L's. Just take them. What I personally focused in on, though, was his response to Sean's round 2 being looted by opportunists. Right? In a more detailed post, Virgil says on Streetwear, "Case in point number 81, why I said streetwear in quotes, is dead. Streetwear is a community. It's groups of friends that have a common bond. We hang out on street corners, fight with each other, fight for each other. Streetwear in quotes is a detachment to the above. Streetwear in quotes is yelling at shop staff, starting fights at lineups, defaming us because we didn't get enough pairs of shoes because everyone can't get a pair. Streetwear is a group of friends that I'm surely was like, come on guys, this is Sean's store. We can't treat him like that. We know Sean. Streetwear is a culture. Streetwear in quotes is a commodity. Streetwear in quotes is I need this shirt, this t-shirt, or pairs of shoes by any means necessary." And to that, I think most people would largely agree. However, I could argue the current state of streetwear as a commodity over culture is one Virgil himself helped create. From old Ralph Lauren shirts with Pyrex printed on the back for $500, which is a reference to a drug that ironically ravaged Black and brown communities, so go figure, to off-white tees for $300. Virgil has been the benefactor of using the street as his muse, while at the same time being an arbiter of its message. To be clear, and I'm gonna put this out there, streetwear isn't round two. It isn't expensive sneakers, and it certainly isn't off-white, and it definitely ain't drugs for controversial effect. No, the culture came from kids who were outcasts, who had no desire of being a part of the mainstream culture. But the flex culture we see today is a result of co-opting these kids' looks and subsequently alienating them by demanding that they somehow level up to their friends with deeper pockets to be a part of the look of streetwear, which they created. And somehow, when it comes to looting a store of Sean Witherspoon, he directs his ire at the culture of streetwear first, without knowing exactly who it was that looted the shop. What's going on? So yes, streetwear as a commodity is tainted, which means egregious pricing for so-called streetwear is tainted. The resale market is tainted. And more importantly, feeding a message to kids coming up that their value is measured in fucking clothes is tainted. No one stood up in those 2010 years and said, yo, it ain't about the shoes. It's not about the clothes. That's BS. It's about you. Not one person said this. And I'll give you this. When it was said, it was offered meekly in an effort to maximize the push on product, to get everybody into the circle. So the idea that individuals in the culture would loot to look cool isn't at all surprising, if in fact it was them that was responsible. Considering so many people aren't even a part of the original street culture and have just co-opted the streetwear look, it seems likely that it wasn't people in the culture, because they would probably know better. Virgil would do well to remember that, and his role in perpetuating that idea. It was the original community who, again, largely has no access to the very image they physically put blood, sweat, and tears into that we should be celebrating. People like Virgil and Sean were just fortunate enough to make money off of it. So frankly, spare me what Sean lost. His store is likely insured and he's wealthy, and I hope it gets built again, bigger and better than before. However, I'm glad I waited to put this out because Virgil did clarify that his initial response was hasty and a little too much, as it sounded like he was more concerned with the store than the tenor of the moment and the culture itself. Now, I don't know if Virgil gets that part. To be honest, not a lot of people in his circle probably do because they're in too deep or so far removed from the actual street to care. Now, he's floating from speeches at Harvard, curating galleries, and cultivating relationships with individuals that often don't concern themselves with the culture of street beyond trying to monetize it. He's the messenger of the tone of the street in fashion for an elite class far more often than not. Yes, he puts people on, but we all know this because it's his life's case study, making him come off as like the king of streetwear because of how many roads he has opened up for individuals and his overall influence. And it's just painful to see the glaring holes even in his apology response. Like, you just don't get it. It's like, I've done this, I'm doing this, I gave this. That is not, in my opinion, what we need at this point. How about I am here where I am today because some kids long ago decided the status quo wasn't enough and decided to buck the trend. I'm here because kids on the block from LA to NYC created a movement and a community. My job is to give back and reflect on it and give you a version of it. And I will do the best I can using the resources I have to ensure what they created continues to live on from generation to generation. Hell, I could have did that because you know what? Virgil-san, Virgil-san. All these kids want to be like you, man. All those kids want to be hype. All those kids want to wear so-called dope shit because of you. At least in part. It's like you said streetwear in quotes is dead, but that's because an entire generation has become hype connoisseurs. We put the Stussy heads, the OG hundreds heads, the skaters, the woo wear community in the back seat like we don't need them anymore. All of a sudden it was simply buy to look street. The emphasis on having and not having in this field runs rampant. That culture of knowledge, that culture of respect, of doing, that culture of knowing, that's all gone. That's evaporated. It doesn't matter apparently, because it's only invoked when bad things happen to the elite club in streetwear. So that's all I got. And with that, I leave it to the family to put their comments below. What do you think about Virgil's recent comments? And if he, on the off chance that he watches this, state what your question is to him or something. I don't know, just the situation at hand, let it be known in the comments. Give a thumbs up if you liked the video. Follow on Instagram for the latest out of Japan and beyond. And if you want extended videos and more support by becoming a member right here on YouTube or Patreon, but most importantly, keep it locked right here for all of your info on international street fashion and culture from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And I'll see you guys on Overtime.